5 years ago, Dr. Marcus Hayes had been someone entirely different. He'd worked at Orion Aerospace Systems, designing navigation algorithms for deep space missions. His office had a view of the Boston skyline. His salary had 6 figures. His future had been as limitless as the space his systems were meant to explore. He'd had a beautiful wife, Sophie, who painted murals in children's hospitals and made their apartment feel like home. They'd had a 4-year-old daughter who laughed at everything and believed her daddy could solve any problem in the universe. Then Sophie got sick. It started with fatigue she blamed on chasing a preschooler. Then came the dizzy spells. Then the diagnosis that shattered their world into pieces. Late-stage brain cancer, inoperable, aggressive. Sophie died 7 months later, on a Tuesday morning, while Marcus held her hand and Mia slept in a chair beside them, too young to understand that Mommy wasn't going to wake up. The medical bills came next. Mountains of them, even with insurance. The experimental treatments they'd tried, the specialist consultations, the emergency procedures. It all added up to a debt that consumed their savings, their home equity, everything they'd built. Marcus tried to work through it, tried to maintain his position at Orion while being a single father to a grieving 5-year-old. But aerospace engineering required travel, late nights, weekend emergencies. Mia needed him home, needed stability, needed a parent who could be there when she woke up crying. For her mother, his supervisor, had been understanding, then patient, then regretful. "We can't hold the position indefinitely. Marcus, we need someone who can commit fully." Marcus took the severance package. It bought him 4 months. His parents had offered to take Mia, just until you get back on your feet. They'd said, "You can't raise a child alone, not like this." Marcus had looked at his daughter, small, traumatized, clinging to the only parent she had left, and made a promise. "I will never send you away, never. We stay together, no matter what." So he stayed, and he worked whatever jobs he could find that let him be home by 3 p.m. to pick Mia up from school. First, a tutoring position, then data entry. Then, when those dried up and the rent came due, he applied to Riverside Elementary itself, custodial position. The listing had said, evening shift, benefits after 90 days. Marcus had stood in the bathroom that night, staring at his reflection, holding his MIT diploma in one hand and a janitor's uniform in the other. "Mommy would understand," Mia had said from the doorway, her small voice cutting through his shame. She always said what matters is being together. So Marcus became a janitor at the same elementary school his daughter attended. He mopped the floors where she learned. He cleaned the bathrooms her classmates used. He emptied the trash cans in the offices of parents who would never look him in the eye. And every day, he made sure Mia knew she was loved, protected, and never alone. He thought he'd kept his past hidden. He thought as long as he worked hard and kept his head down, no one would ever know. Dr. Marcus Hayes, aerospace engineer, had become Marcus the janitor. He was wrong. Mia adapted better than Marcus expected. She made friends. She excelled in class. Her teachers adored her. But the parents were a different story. At 8 years old, Mia was acutely aware that she was different from her classmates, not because she was less smart or less kind, but because of what she didn't have. She didn't have a mother to braid her hair in complicated styles. Marcus did his best, but YouTube tutorials could only take him so far, and Mia's ponytails were always a little crooked. She didn't have trendy clothes. She wore clean, second-hand outfits that Marcus found at Goodwill, carefully chosen to look as normal as possible. She didn't get invited to birthday parties at country clubs or play dates at houses with swimming pools. The other parents made polite excuses, but Mia was smart enough to read between the lines. Marcus saw it happening, saw his daughter slowly being excluded from the social, the fabric of Riverside Elementary, not because of anything she did, but because of who her father was. He was the janitor, the poor man, the one who didn't belong. One afternoon, Marcus was cleaning the hallway after school when he overheard a conversation that stopped him cold. Patricia Whitmore was talking to another parent, their voices echoing from the office. "I don't understand why the administration allows these scholarship cases," Patricia said. They bring down the entire culture of the school. You mean the Hayes girl? The other woman asked. Exactly, sweet child. But her father is literally the custodian. How are our children supposed to aspire to excellence when they're surrounded by... She paused, searching for a word that sounded less cruel than what she meant. That kind of influence? Marcus stood frozen, mop in hand, rage and shame burning in equal measure. Can you imagine? Patricia continued. The school newsletter mentioned him. Volunteering for the science fair, a janitor, teaching children about science. It's embarrassing. The other woman laughed. What could he possibly know about science? Marcus wanted to walk in there, wanted to tell them about the navigation system he'd designed that was currently orbiting Jupiter, wanted to show them his dissertation, his patents, his publications, but he didn't, because the moment he revealed who he'd been, he'd have to explain why he wasn't that person anymore. And then everyone would know he'd given it all up, the career, the prestige, the money, all of it for his daughter. Some people would understand, but people like Patricia, they'd just see weakness, failure, a man who couldn't handle real life. So Marcus said nothing. He finished mopping the hallway, picked Mia up from after-school care, and took her home on the bus. That night, Mia asked him a question that broke his heart. Daddy, why don't the other kids' parents like you? Marcus set down the dinner plates carefully. What makes you think that? Baby, Emma's mom said I can't come to her birthday party because you work at the school and it would be awkward. Mia's voice was small. Are you bad at your job? No, Marcus said firmly. I'm very good at my job. Then why some people, Marcus said slowly, judge others based on what they see on the outside. They don't take the time to see what's on the inside. Mia was quiet for a moment. That's stupid, Marcus laughed despite himself. Yeah, baby. It is. You're the smartest person I know, Mia said with absolute certainty, and the kindest. And you make the best pancakes. The last one is debatable, Marcus said, pulling her into a hug. Nope, Mia said, her voice muffled against his chest. Best pancakes. In fact, Marcus held his daughter and tried not to think about the fact that tomorrow he'd have to clean Patricia Whitmore's son's classroom, and she'd walk past him without a single acknowledgement that he was a human being. That was his life now, invisible, dismissed, judged. But as long as Mia knew the truth, as long as she felt loved, he could endure it. He just didn't know how much longer he could endure it. 6 weeks before the fundraiser, Mrs. Chen, the art teacher, announced a special project. The fall fundraiser will feature a student art auction, she explained to the class. Each of you will create a piece that represents what family means to you. Mia's hand shot up immediately. Can I make something about my dad? Mrs. Chen smiled. Of course. That's perfect. For weeks, Mia worked on her project in secret. She wouldn't let Marcus see it, wouldn't even hint at what it was. It's a surprise, she'd say with a grin that reminded him so much of Sophie it hurt. Marcus didn't push. He was just happy to see her excited about something. The night before the fundraiser, Mia finally showed him. It was a painted canvas about 2 feet square. On one side was a figure in a janitor's uniform, mop in hand. On the other was a figure in a suit, standing in front of stars and planets. Between them was a small girl, holding both their hands. Above the painting, in Mia's careful handwriting, my daddy, the same person who changed everything for me. Marcus stared at it, his throat closing. Do you like it? Mia asked nervously. A baby? Marcus whispered. It's perfect. Mrs. Jen says families who donated money to the school get to bid on our art. Maya explained. She says it's a big honor to be in the auction. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. Mia, sweetheart, I don't think we're invited to the auction. Why not? How did you explain to an 8-year-old that her art would be sold to wealthy people who wouldn't want the artists' poor father anywhere near them? It's complicated, Marcus said finally. But Mia's face fell. Mrs. Chen said parents could come. She said I should show you my art there. She said it would make you proud. Marcus couldn't say no, couldn't crush her excitement, couldn't explain that sometimes being proud wasn't enough. Okay, he heard himself say. We'll go. Mia's face lit up. Really? Really? She threw her arms around him. You're going to love it, Daddy. Everyone's going to see how special you are. Marcus held her tight and tried not to think about what would actually happen when he walked into that room full of people who already saw him as less than human. He just wanted one night where Mia felt like she belonged. He had no idea that one night would expose every secret he'd been hiding, and he had no idea that the person who would humiliate him most publicly would be Patricia Whitmore, the same woman whose husband, Richard, owed his entire career to research Marcus had published 10 years ago. But that revelation was still to come. For now, Marcus just held his daughter and pretended everything would be fine. The night of the fundraiser arrived with perfect autumn weather. Marcus had pressed his shirt 3 times. Mia wore her best dress, the yellow one Sophie had bought her years ago that still fit if you didn't look too closely at how short it had gotten. They took the bus, walked the last 3 blocks, arrived exactly on time because Marcus didn't want to give anyone ammunition to say they'd disrupted anything. The moment they stepped through the gymnasium doors, Marcus knew they'd made a mistake. The room glittered, not with school decorations, but with actual wealth. Crystal glasses caught the light. Designer dresses swished across polished floors. Men in suits that cost more than Marcus's monthly rent laughed over whiskey. This wasn't a school fundraiser. This was a gala for the wealthy to see and be seen by each other. And Marcus, in his JCPenney shirt and Goodwill pants, stuck out like a neon sign that screamed, "Doesn't belong." Mia didn't notice. She was too busy scanning the room for her artwork, her small face bright with excitement. There it is. So she pointed to the far wall where student pieces were displayed. Come on, Daddy! They made it about 10 feet before the whispers started. Is that the janitor? What's he doing here? Did someone let him in by mistake? Marcus kept walking, Mia's hand in his, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel. They reached Mia's painting. It hung in a prominent spot, and Marcus's chest swelled with pride despite everything. His daughter's work was beautiful. She'd captured something true about their life, the duality, the sacrifice, the love that held them together. Do you like where they put it? Mia asked, practically bouncing. It's perfect, baby. You should be so proud. Mr. Hayes, Marcus turned. Mrs. Jen stood there, smiling warmly. She was one of the few people at Riverside who'd always treated him with respect. I'm so glad you came. She said, Mia's piece is extraordinary. The technique, the symbolism. She has a real gift. She gets that from her mother, Marcus said. Mrs. Chen's expression softened. Well, I wanted you both to know that several parents have already expressed interest in bidding on this piece. It might be one of our top sellers tonight. Mia squealed with delight. Marcus felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find Patricia Whitmore standing there, flanked by 2 other PTA members. Her expression was ice. I need to speak with you, she said, her voice low but sharp. Privately. I'm here with my daughter, Marcus replied calmly. This will only take a moment. It wasn't a request. Marcus glanced at Mrs. Chen, who gave him an encouraging nod. Mia and I will look at the other artwork, she said gently. Taking Mia's hand, Marcus followed Patricia to a quiet corner near the gym. Equipment storage. The 2 other women formed a wall behind her. I don't know what you think you're doing, Patricia began, without preamble. But this event is for donors and families who support this. School financially. My daughter's art is being auctioned, Marcus said quietly. Mrs. Chen invited us. Mrs. Chen doesn't understand the optics. Patricia's voice dripped with condescension. Having you here dressed like that, with everyone knowing what you do, it sends the wrong message. Marcus felt heat crawling up his neck. What message is that? Good that anyone can access our community. That standards don't matter. That, she gestured vaguely at him, that this is acceptable. One of the women behind her added, some parents have already asked why the custodian is mingling with guests. Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm not mingling. I'm here to support my daughter. Your daughter, Patricia said slowly, benefits from a scholarship funded by families like mine. The least you could do is show some gratitude by not embarrassing her or us with your presence. The words hit like physical blows. Marcus thought of 1,000 responses, thought of telling her exactly who he was, what he'd accomplished, what he'd sacrificed, thought of defending his dignity, his daughter, himself. But before he could speak, a voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Dr. Marcus Hayes." Everyone turned. A man in an expensive suit stood there, holding a tablet flanked by 2 assistants. He looked like he belonged in this room, polished, professional, powerful. "I'm Marcus Hayes," Marcus said carefully. The man's face broke into a smile. "Dr. Hayes, Christopher Bennett, CEO of Titan Aerospace. I've been trying to reach you for months." The temperature in the corner dropped 10 degrees. Patricia's eyes widened. The other women looked between Marcus and the CEO with visible confusion. "I'm sorry," Marcus said slowly. "I don't understand." Christopher stepped closer. "Your research on autonomous navigation systems. We've been trying to license it for our Mars mission. Your algorithms are still the most efficient solution for deep space trajectory correction." He paused. "Sir, you're a legend in the aerospace community. When I heard you might be in the area, I had to find you." Marcus felt the world tilting. Patricia's voice came out strangled. "Research? Mars mission? What is he talking about?" Christopher looked at her with polite confusion. "I'm talking about Dr. Hayes' work at MIT and his time at Orion Aerospace. His dissertation revolutionized how we approach." He stopped, reading the room. "I'm sorry, do you not know who he is?" "He's the janitor," one of the women whispered. Christopher blinked. I'm sorry, the what?" And that's when Mia's voice rang out across the gymnasium. "My daddy is a doctor!" Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. Mia stood in the center of the room, holding her painting, tears streaming down her face. Her small voice carrying with perfect clarity in the sudden silence. "He has a PhD from MIT. He designed systems for NASA. He's the smartest person in the whole world. And you," she pointed at Patricia, "you were mean to him. You called him names! You said he didn't belong. But he's better than anyone here." Mrs. Chen stood behind Mia, her face a mixture of pride and concern. Patricia's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and then a sickly realization as she looked from Mia to Marcus to Christopher Bennett. Christopher spoke into the silence, his voice gentle. "She's right, Doctor. Hayes is one of the most brilliant engineers of his generation." He looked at Marcus with open curiosity. "Sir, what are you doing working as a custodian?" Marcus looked at his daughter, saw the tears on her cheeks, saw the fierce pride in her small face, and he realized the secret was out. All of it. "I'm raising my daughter," Marcus said simply. "That's what I'm doing." The gymnasium was so quiet, you could hear the sound of ice melting in abandoned drinks. Christopher Bennett looked at Marcus with something like understanding dawning in his eyes. "Your wife," he said quietly, "Sophie Hayes. I remember reading—" He stopped. "I'm so sorry." Marcus nodded once, throat tight. Patricia recovered first, though her voice shook slightly. "This is absurd. If you're really this important scientist, why would you be cleaning toilets?" The cruelty in her tone finally broke something in Marcus. "Because," he said, his voice steady and cold, "when my wife died, I had a choice. I could keep my prestigious job that required 60-hour weeks and constant travel, or I could be there for my daughter who'd just lost her. Mother, I chose her. I'll always choose her." He looked around the room at the sea of wealthy faces, many of which had judged him, dismissed him, treated him like he was invisible. "I gave up my career so Mia would never have to eat breakfast alone or go to bed without a story or wake up from nightmares with no one to hold her. I took the jobs that let me pick her up from school every single day. And yes, one of those jobs was cleaning this building." His voice grew stronger. "I scrubbed the floors of your children's classrooms. I fixed the toilets in the faculty bathrooms. I emptied trash cans and mopped up spills and made sure this school was clean and safe for everyone. And not once did I complain. Not once did I ask for recognition. I just did the work, because that's what you do when you love someone. You do what needs to be done." Patricia opened her mouth, but Marcus wasn't finished. "You want to know what's embarrassing, Mrs. Whitmore? It's not that I clean toilets. It's that you treated me like I was less than human because of it. It's that your children watched you dismiss me every single day, and you taught them that a person's worth is measured by their job title instead of their character. Mia had reached him by now, wrapping her arms around his waist. Marcus put his hand on her head, grounding himself. Christopher cleared his throat. Doctor Hayes, I don't mean to intrude, but I still need to speak with you about licensing your research. Not now, Marcus said firmly. Then more gently, thank you, but I need to take my daughter home. Of course. Christopher pulled out a business card. Please, call me when you're ready. What you created doesn't have an expiration date. It's as valuable now as it was 5 years ago. He paused. More valuable, actually. Marcus took the card and looked at Patricia one last time. I'm sorry my presence here made you uncomfortable. We'll leave now. He turned to go. Mia still clinging to him. Wait! A voice called out. A man stepped forward from the crowd, tall, graying, wearing a suit that probably cost $5,000. His face was familiar, though Marcus couldn't place it immediately. Dr. Hayes, I'm Richard Whitmore, Patricia's husband. Oh no, Richard continued. I don't know if you remember, but 15 years ago, I was a graduate student at Princeton. I cited your research in my doctoral dissertation. Your work on recursive trajectory algorithms formed the foundation of my entire thesis. Patricia's face had gone completely white. I built my career on research that you pioneered, Richard said quietly. My hedge fund specializes in aerospace investments because I understood the math behind the technology, and I understood it because you taught me. He looked at his wife, and there was something cold in his expression. Patricia, did you know that Dr. Hayes was on faculty at MIT? Patricia couldn't speak. Did you know, Richard continued, his voice hardening, that his published work has been cited over 3,000 times? That aerospace engineers around the world still use his algorithms? I didn't. Did you know, Richard said, each word precise and cutting, that he gave up everything to raise his daughter alone after his wife died? Patricia just stood there, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Richard turned back to Marcus. Dr. Hayes, I apologize on behalf of my family. My wife acted without knowledge or compassion. That's unacceptable, Richard. Patricia hissed. You're humiliating me. No, Richard said coldly. You humiliated yourself. You humiliated our family. And you tried to humiliate a man who deserves nothing but respect. He looked at Marcus again. I meant what I said. Your work changed my life. And if you ever want to discuss opportunities, real opportunities, not just licensing deals, I'd be honored to help. Marcus nodded. Too overwhelmed to speak. Mrs. Chen appeared at his side. Dr. Hayes, if you'd like to leave, I'll make sure Mia's artwork goes home with you. Actually, a woman's voice called from near the auction. Table, I'd like to bid on it. Starting at $1,000. Head swiveled. $1,500. Another parent called. $2,000. $2,500. The bids kept climbing. Marcus watched in shock as parents who'd judged him minutes earlier now competed to own his daughter's painting, not because it was beautiful, but because they'd just learned he was someone important. The painting sold for $8,000. Mia looked up at him with wide eyes. Daddy, that's a lot of money. It is, baby. Does this mean we're not poor anymore? Marcus pulled her close. We were never poor, Mia. Not where it counts. Marcus wanted to leave immediately, but parents kept approaching him, apologizing, offering playdates for Mia, asking about his research, pretending they'd never treated him like he was invisible. He accepted their words with polite nods, but he didn't forget, didn't forgive. These people hadn't changed. They'd just learned he was valuable by their standards. Patricia and Richard left without another word, but Marcus saw the fury in her face, the calculation. This wasn't over. People like Patricia didn't accept humiliation gracefully. Christopher Bennett was persistent, but respectful. Dr. Hayes, I understand this is overwhelming, but please just listen for 2 minutes. Marcus sighed. 2 minutes. Titan Aerospace is launching the Artemis Deep Space Exploration Program. We need someone to head our Autonomous Systems Division. The role would be based here in Seattle. Standard hours, full benefits. And he paused. We have an excellent on-site daycare and an elementary school partnership program. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Mr. Bennett, the salary is $400,000 annually, plus equity. But honestly, sir, we need you because you're the best, not because we're being charitable. I haven't worked in aerospace for 5 years. The principles don't change, Christopher said. And your mind hasn't disappeared just because you've been doing other work. If anything, you probably see problems from perspectives other engineers miss now. Mia tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, this sounds like your space job, the one you used to tell me stories about. Christopher smiled at her. You know what your dad does? He makes sure spaceships don't get lost, Mia said simply. Exactly right. Christopher looked at Marcus. Think about it, please. You deserve to use your mind for what it was trained to do. And your daughter deserves to see her father recognized for who he really is. He handed Marcus another card and walked away. Marcus stood in the gymnasium holding 2 business cards, $8,000 in auction money for Mia's painting, and the weight of a secret that was no longer secret, Mrs. Chen approached one last time, for what it's worth. Dr. Hayes, I always knew you were special. The way you helped students with their science projects, the questions you asked, the way you explained things, I knew you had training. I just didn't know the extent. You never treated me differently, Marcus said. Thank you for that. Everyone deserves dignity, she said simply, regardless of their job title. She paused. Will you stay at the school? As custodian, Marcus looked at Mia, who was carefully holding her painting, the one that had sold, for more than he made in 6 months. I don't know yet, he admitted. I need to think. They finally made it outside. The cool air felt like relief. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had just happened. Daddy? Mia's small voice cut through his thoughts. Yeah, baby? Are people going to be nice to us now? The question broke his heart. Maybe, he said honestly. But not because we changed. Because they finally saw what was always there. Mia considered this. That's sad. Yeah, baby. It is. They walked to the bus stop, hand in hand, leaving behind the gymnasium full of people who would talk about Marcus Hayes for weeks, months, years. But Marcus didn't care what they thought anymore. He cared about the little girl whose hand fit perfectly in his, and he cared about figuring out what came next. Because everything had changed, and he had no idea if that was a good thing or not. If you're feeling the emotion of Marcus and Mia's story, please take a moment to hit that like button. Drop a comment telling us, have you or someone you love ever been judged based on appearance rather than character? How did the truth eventually come out? Your stories matter, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We share these stories because dignity, love and truth are worth fighting for. Now let's see what happens when Marcus has to decide. Does he go back to his old life, or has he built something new that's worth more? Marcus didn't sleep that night. He lay on the couch in their small apartment. Mia had the only bedroom and stared at the ceiling, replaying everything, the humiliation, the revelation, the job offer, $400,000 a year. He tried to imagine it. A real apartment, maybe even a house. Mia could have her own room with actual furniture instead of mismatched pieces from Goodwill. They could buy groceries without calculating every penny. She could take art classes, music lessons, whatever she wanted. But the job would mean longer hours, travel eventually, late nights, the same pressures that had made him leave in the first place. Could he do it differently this time? Could he set boundaries, demand flexibility, protect his time with Mia? Or would the work consume him again, pulling him away from the only thing that truly mattered? His phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from an unknown number. Dr. Hayes, this is Richard Whitmore. I know this is unexpected, but I'd like to apologize properly. Would you meet me for coffee? I promise I'm not wasting your time. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment before typing, back tomorrow morning. 9 a.m., the cafe on Maple Street. He had questions, and Richard Whitmore had answers. The next morning, Marcus dropped Mia off at school. Other parents stared, some smiled nervously. A few actually said good morning. Emma's mother, the one who'd uninvited Mia from the birthday, party approached with a strained expression. Mr. Hayes, Dr. Hayes, I wanted to apologize. Emma's birthday party is next Saturday, and we'd love for Mia to come. We'll send a proper invitation. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Why now? She blinked. I'm sorry. 2 weeks ago, you told my daughter she couldn't come because it would be awkward. What changed? The woman's face reddened. I didn't realize that I had a PhD. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. That I used to work in aerospace. That I'm someone important by your standards. That's not... My daughter is the same person she was 2 weeks ago. Smart, kind, creative. But she wasn't good enough for your party until you learned. I'm not just the janitor. The woman looked like she wanted to melt into the sidewalk. Mia can come to the party, Marcus said finally, because she deserves friends. But understand this, we don't need your approval. We never did. He walked away before she could respond. Richard Whitmore was already seated when Marcus arrived at the cafe. He stood immediately, offering his hand. Dr. Hayes, thank you for meeting me. Marcus shook his hand and sat. You said you had something to tell me. Richard ordered coffee for both of them before speaking. First, I want to apologize for my wife's behavior. There's no excuse. No, Marcus agreed. There isn't. Patricia has always been... Richard paused, searching for words. Status conscious. She measures everything by social standing. It's how she was raised. That's not my problem. Marcus said bluntly. No, it's not. Richard met his eyes. But it's become mine. After last night, after seeing how she treated you, how she spoke to you, he stopped. I've started to wonder what else I've missed. What other people she's hurt in her quest to feel superior. Marcus sipped his coffee and waited. I looked you up last night, Richard continued. Read your publications again, your MIT thesis. The articles about Sophie's death. His voice softened. I'm sorry for your loss, for what you've had to endure. Thank you. You gave up everything for your daughter. I gave up a job, Marcus corrected. I kept everything that mattered. Richard smiled slightly. That's a perspective Patricia will never understand. He pulled out a folder, but that's not why I asked you here. I asked because I wanted you to see this. He opened the folder. Inside were financial documents, contracts, projection charts. My hedge fund invests heavily in aerospace startups, Richard explained. We've funded 17 companies in the last decade. 12 of them are using derivatives of your navigation. Algorithms, Marcus leaned forward. Interest peaked despite himself. You never patented your research because you published. Through MIT, Richard continued, which means it's public domain. Legal, ethical, but he met Marcus's eyes. You never received a penny from work that has generated billions of dollars in value. Marcus had known this, of course. Academic research was meant to be shared, built upon advanced. That was the whole point. But hearing the number billions still stung. I want to change that. Richard said, I'm not looking for charity. It's not charity. It's a consultation contract. Richard slid papers across the table. You advise my fund on aerospace investments. Help us evaluate technology, vet proposals, identify promising innovations, 20 hours a month. You set your own schedule. He paused. $300,000 a year. Marcus stared at the papers. That's in addition to whatever you decide to do about Titan's offer, Richard added. This is independent income, flexible, and it's yours because your expertise has value. Marcus looked up. Why are you doing this? Because I owe you. Richard said simply, my career was built on your work. The least I can do is make sure you benefit from it too. He hesitated. And because my wife tried to humiliate you, this doesn't make up for that, but it's something. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. With both contracts, Titan and Richard's fund, he'd be making $700,000 a year, more money than he'd dreamed of even at his peak. Mia could have everything, college fully funded, a real childhood with opportunities and experiences. But what would it cost? Any time, Marcus said finally. Of course, Richard stood. Take all the time you need. The offer doesn't expire. He turned to leave, then stopped. Dr. Hayes, one more thing, yes? Patricia's going to try to save face. She'll spin this somehow, make herself the victim. Just be prepared. Marcus nodded slowly. Thank you for the warning. Richard's warning came true faster than Marcus expected. That afternoon, a blog post appeared on the Riverside Elementary Parent Association website. The title, When Good Intentions Go Wrong, A Mother's Perspective on Last Night's Misunderstanding. Marcus read it with growing disbelief. Patricia had written a long, carefully worded essay about how she'd been trying to protect Dr. Hayes from uncomfortable attention at the fundraiser. How she'd worried that people might treat him differently if they knew about his difficult circumstances. How she'd only wanted to spare him the pain of being judged. The comment section lit up with support from other parents who hadn't been there but believed Patricia's version. Poor Patricia. Always trying to help and getting misunderstood. I'm sure Dr. Hayes overreacted. Patricia would never be cruel. Everyone is so quick to judge these days. Mia found Marcus reading the post on his phone that evening. Daddy, you look mad. He set the phone down. I'm not mad, just disappointed. In Mrs. Whitmore, you in the fact that some people can't tell the truth even when it's right in front of them. Mia climbed into his lap. Are we going to be okay? Marcus wrapped his arms around her. We're always okay, baby. As long as we have each other. But what about your jobs? The space one and the money one? I haven't decided yet. What are you deciding between? Marcus thought about how to explain it. I can go back to the work I used to do. It's important work, exciting work. But it takes a lot of time. More time than you have now? Probably. Mia was quiet for a moment. Daddy, do you like being a janitor? He blinked. I like that it lets me be with you. But do you like the work? Marcus considered this honestly. Not really. Do you like space work? I love space work. Then you should do space work. Mia said simply, but the kind where you can still pick me up from school. That's the rule. Marcus smiled despite himself. That's the rule. Yep, you made it up after Mommy died. You said we don't break the rule. She was right. He had said that. Okay, Marcus said. Then that's what we'll do. He pulled out his phone and sent 2 texts. To Christopher Bennett, I'll take the position. But I need guaranteed hours and no required travel. If you can promise that, I'm in. To Richard Whitmore, I accept the consulting contract. Let's discuss terms. Both men responded within minutes. Christopher, done. Let's talk tomorrow about structure. Welcome to Titan, Richard. Excellent. I'll have contracts drawn up. Thank you, Marcus. Marcus set the phone down and looked at Mia. We're going to be okay, he said again. This time he believed it. 3 weeks later, Marcus walked through the doors of Titan Aerospace for his first day. He wore a suit he'd bought with part of Mia's painting. Money. His employee badge read, Dr. Marcus Hayes, Director of Autonomous Systems. Christopher greeted him personally in the lobby. Ready to change the world? He asked with a grin. Ready to try, Marcus replied. The offices were state-of-the-art. His team consisted of 12 engineers, most of them younger than him, all of them intimidated when they learned who he was. Your research is in our textbooks, one young woman said nervously. I didn't realize we'd be working with a legend. I'm not a legend, Marcus said. I'm just someone who likes solving problems. By the end of the first week, Marcus had identified 3 major inefficiencies in Titan's current navigation protocols and proposed solutions that would save millions in computational resources. Christopher pulled him aside. You just earned your salary for the entire year in 5 days. I'm just getting started, Marcus said. But the best part wasn't the work itself, though Marcus had forgotten how much he loved the intellectual challenge. The collaboration, the sense of building something bigger than himself. The best part was the text he sent. Mia every day at 2:45 p.m., leaving now. See you at school in 15 minutes. And every day, without fail, Marcus was there at 3:00 p.m. to pick up his daughter. Some things were non-negotiable. 1 month into his new position, Marcus received an unexpected visitor at Titan's offices. Patricia Whitmore, his assistant, looked flustered. Sir, there's a woman here who says she needs to speak with you. She's quite insistent, Marcus sighed. He'd known this was coming. Send her in. Patricia entered his office with the forced smile of someone trying to reclaim dignity they'd lost. "Dr. Hayes, I hope I'm not interrupting." "You are," Marcus said mildly. "But I have 5 minutes." Patricia's smile tightened. She sat without being invited. "I wanted to clear the air about what happened at the fundraiser." "The air is clear," Marcus said. "You humiliated me. Then you lied about it." "There's nothing unclear. I was trying to protect you." "Don't," Marcus interrupted. "Don't insult my intelligence by repeating that story. We both know what happened. You judged me based on my job. You treated me like I was worthless. And when you learned otherwise, you tried to rewrite history to make yourself look better." Patricia's composure cracked. "You don't understand the pressure I was under." "I don't care about your pressures," Marcus said flatly. "You made my daughter cry. You made her feel like she didn't belong because her father wasn't wealthy enough. That's unforgivable." Patricia's voice shook. "I apologized." "No, you didn't. You wrote a blog post excusing your behavior. That's not an apology. That's damage control." Patricia stood abruptly. "I came here to try to make peace. Then actually apologize. Say, I was wrong." "I'm sorry. I'll do better." Marcus met her eyes. "Can you do that?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed. She couldn't do it. The words wouldn't come. After a long moment, she turned and left without another word. Marcus watched her go and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just a quiet recognition that some people would never understand what they'd done wrong. His phone buzzed. A text from Mia. "Are you still picking me up today?" "Daddy," Marcus smiled and typed back, "always." "Baby, every single day." That evening, Marcus attended Mia's school concert. She had a solo, a song she'd chosen herself about stars and dreams. As she sang, her voice pure and clear, Marcus looked around the auditorium. Other parents watched their children with varying levels of attention. Some were on their phones. Some were whispering to each other. Some looked bored. But Marcus watched his daughter like she was the only person in the universe. Because at one point she'd been his entire world when everything else had fallen apart. And now, even as their world expanded again, new jobs, new opportunities, new possibilities, she was still his center, his purpose, his reason for every choice he made. After the concert, Mia ran to him, her face glowing. "Did you see me, Daddy? Did you hear?" "Well, I saw everything, baby. You were perfect." She hugged him tight. "I'm glad you were here." "I'll always be here," Marcus promised. And unlike some promises, he knew he'd keep this one. Marcus and Mia moved into a new apartment. Not a mansion. Marcus wasn't interested in showing off, but a comfortable 2-bedroom with a small office where he could work from home when needed. Mia got her own room. She decorated it herself, covering the walls with paintings she'd made. Some were new, some were old. And in the place of honor above her bed hung a photograph. Marcus in his janitor's uniform. And beside it, Marcus in his Titan badge. And between them, a small girl holding both their hands. Same person. Mia had written underneath in careful letters, different chapters. Mia's friendships at school evolved. Some parents who'd ignored her before suddenly wanted playdates. Marcus let Mia decide who she wanted to spend time with. But he watched carefully. The children who'd been kind before, when Mia was just the scholarship kid with the janitor dad, remained her closest. Friends, the others, they learned that Marcus's daughter had standards of her own. At Titan, Marcus thrived. His team presented their navigation system at an international aerospace conference. The technology won awards. Companies worldwide wanted to license it. Christopher offered him a promotion. Marcus declined. "I have exactly what I need," he said. "A job I love, time with my daughter, and work that matters." More responsibility would compromise that balance. Christopher laughed. "You're the only person I know who turns down a vice presidency. Then you need to meet more people with their priorities." "Straight," Marcus replied. "On the first anniversary of the fundraiser, Mrs. was dediced to you to tain what de term." Jen organized a special assembly at Riverside Elementary. She called it Community Heroes, an event honoring people who'd made a difference in students' lives. Marcus was invited as a guest speaker. He stood on the stage in front of the entire school, students, teachers, and some parents, and told them his story. Not to brag, not to prove anything, but to teach. 5 years ago, he said, I was an engineer who thought his value came from his job, title. Then I lost my wife, and I learned what real value was. It was being there, being present, being the person someone else needed most. He looked at Mia sitting in the front row. I became a janitor because it let me pick up my daughter from school every day. Some people treated me like I was invisible, like I didn't matter, but my daughter knew better. She knew that love shows up. That dedication looks different for different people. That dignity isn't measured by salary or status. He paused. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Every person you meet, the janitor, the cashier, the person serving your food, is someone's whole world. Treat them accordingly. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus only cared about one person clapping. Mia stood and signed "I love you" across the auditorium. Marcus signed it back. That night, as he tucked Mia into bed, she asked him a question. Daddy, are you happy? Marcus thought about his answer. About the 5 years of struggle, about the humiliation and the judgment, about the choice he'd made and the life he'd rebuilt. Yes, baby, he said honestly. I'm happy. Good, Mia said, snuggling into her blankets. Because you're still the best daddy ever. Space job or no space job, Marcus kissed her forehead. Always, baby, always. He stood in the doorway for a moment, watching his daughter fall asleep in her own room, in their own apartment, in the life they'd built together from nothing, and he realized he'd never really been poor. Not where it counted, because he'd always had love. He'd always had purpose. He'd always had Mia. And that was the greatest wealth anyone could have. Marcus and Mia's story reminds us that dignity isn't given by others. It's held within ourselves, waiting for the world to recognize what was always there. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. What would you sacrifice for someone you love? Have you ever been judged unfairly? How did you keep your dignity? Subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate love, sacrifice, and the quiet heroism of ordinary people doing extraordinary things for those they love. Remember, the measure of a person isn't their job title. It's who they are when everything is stripped away. It's who they choose to be when no one is watching. It's how they love when love is all they have left to give. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for believing that every person, no matter their circumstances, deserves to be seen, valued, and respected. Until next time, be kind, be present, be the person someone else needs you to be.